This hot, this the spot. There it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and laughter stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a podcast for comedy creators of all varieties. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Hey, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You are great. Thanks for coming back or being here for the first time. And we have a fun show for you today. This one is with Jeris Donovan, improviser and instructor. She lives in North Carolina now, but she has been to I.O. West. That's where she trained a good bit. She'll tell you all about her career. She's gone to a few different theaters, and she's fantastic. I met her last year at the North Carolina Comedy Arts Festival. I'm really thrilled to be putting this episode out and giving you a chance to be inspired by her. If this is your first time finding us, thanks for being here again. And you can find more of our stuff on iTunes and SoundCloud. And you can go to thereitispod.com and look up old episodes and old blogs. I was mentioning inspiration a minute ago, and tonight is Monday. This is what I'm recording before I post the episode up on Tuesday. And I co-founded a group here in Greenville, South Carolina called No Expectations Comedy, and it's an open mic. It's we believe it's the longest running open mic in the state of South Carolina, and it's been going on for almost 7.5 years, 7.25 years, I guess we could say, and it's been a lot of fun. We've had so many great people come through there. Joe Zimmerman, Herbie Gill, Rory Scovel, and it's been a fun room to have. And tonight was my last night hosting before I move off to New York City. And the people were great. The comics they're the best people. And they were very kind, and I've been very inspired so often in that room watching my peers and people who are not my peers perform there. And I've learned a lot, and I've grown a lot. And every Monday, just about every single Monday, I was in that room performing. So it was bittersweet to be doing it for the last time, but I was very pleased with the night. And that's one of the great things about doing comedy, is just the inspiration you feel. You remember that first time you saw a comedy show of some variety and it made you laugh and it just made you have the best time, and you said, I want to do that, and you ended up doing it. And that's so cool that you were inspired to do something that brought joy to your life. And you know what? It's also going to bring joy to other people's lives because you were inspired by watching someone else do comedy. Someone is very likely inspired by watching you. So it's just a cool thing, and I'm really, really thrilled that I have it as a part of my life. Well, speaking again about inspiration, this talk is super inspiring. Just re-listening to it as I was editing it just really got me going again, and it did when I did the interview as well. Jeris is awesome. There's so much you're going to learn. So let's get right to it. Here's my chat with Jeris Donovan. It's really great to be talking with you. I really enjoyed learning from you last year when we met.
Oh, I loved your class. That was such a rewarding experience.
Great.
See, even in that short period of time, how everybody just completely leapt forward in the work. And oh my gosh, those scenes were so good.
Yeah.
Enjoyable. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, I was thrilled to meet you and see everybody. And it's been fun too to watch everybody on Facebook and see the different troops and kind of get to continue to see what work you all are doing. Thank God for Facebook at times, seriously.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, honestly, I bemoan it a lot. We all bemoan Facebook a good bit, but I mean, I'm seeing kids who are friends of mine's kids. I get to see them grow up, because of Facebook, and I get to connect with people and learn so much from people that I otherwise would have a much harder time connecting with. So I do enjoy social media from that standpoint. I wish everyone used it for positive gain and not simply negative gain,
Right.
negative destruction.
Well, I think as an improviser, there's so many tools on Facebook to stay current with everything that's going on. Like as soon as the word of UCB's grading scale came out, like within an hour, I had so much information because, with just about on every post and in the middle,
Right.
I have someone that's involved somewhere that I'm connected to. And so whether it's the newest book coming out or the type of shows that are being done, or I like to be able that I can watch a cage match in LA.
Yeah.
And share it with my students. Like it's such an incredible resource. And of course the podcast, like knowing about them and being able to link right away to them, it's such a great tool for improvisers. So.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's a lot of Facebook Live stuff that's been, maybe that's how you saw the one thing, but it's been really great. And just connecting with people and people you meet at a festival you can connect with deeper, like we did. We got to,
Right.
We met at the North Carolina Comedy Arts Festival and have been able to stay in touch. And I've been able to ask you questions and get a ton of information that's been directly beneficial to me as a performer and as a coach. Yeah,
Good.
it's such a good thing for improvisers and anyone really wanting to create stuff. It's all about getting the word out about things.
Right.
Through being friends with you on Facebook, I have seen a picture of you on Two Guys, a Girl. What's the name of the show? Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Well, that was the original name, and then it became Two Guys and a Girl.
Girl, yeah.
And then
Dropped
eventually
the
they
Pizza Place.
canceled it. So.
Yes. But you were on an episode of that show.
I was, yes.
What was that experience like?
It's, I don't know, it seems so different now, but it was good. It was also, I would say, very isolating. I just remember being on the stage. The stage was broken into through a set was broken into 4 different sets, and I was on that set, and literally by myself in almost darkness, waiting. And I just thought that was such a strange thing. And then eventually it was just Ryan Reynolds and I standing. And I remember saying, extending my hand, because there was no one around but us, and I'm extending my hand saying, "Hi, I'm Jeris," and he's like, "Oh, I'm eating a bagel," and refused to shake my hand.
He's what?
He was like, "I'm eating a bagel," and refused to shake me. And I thought, okay, we're the only 2 people here, and now you've created the most awkward moment of silence possibly in the history of man. So yeah, it was weird, but it was good. It was a good experience.
Was he blowing you off, or did he continue talking, or was he just like, "Oh,
not really.
But...
No. I think he was just sort of done. But
well,
I think it's just for him, it's like one other guest star, one other person that's here this week. They've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
and
but
the whole dynamic
he's one of those guys that people like to think is fun to be around, and that's not a story that sounds like that. But obviously,
but I think now he is.
It seems.
I do. Yes.
It does seem like his. And I didn't pay any attention to him then, but the way you see him out and about now, it does seem like he's a more grounded celebrity, and you can kind of tell the ones who are grounded and who are not. And he sounds more grounded. So that's,
and you have to, I'm an empathetic person, and you have to think he was very young and very talented. And I can imagine how that would affect an ego.
Yeah, people say I'm a nice guy, but if I was 22 and got famous...
Oh, I'd be a jerk.
Exactly. I feel like fame does that to people at least a little bit, some kind of attention. But what seems to be consistent is that if someone gets to be famous in their mid to late 30s, generally they are normal about everything.
Right.
Because by that point they might have kids or something.
Exactly. And I think that changes everybody all the time. Don't you think Tom Hanks was probably a little bit of a jerk during Bosom Buddies? Seriously. He had to have been, because he was the thing.
He was the guy. And
he was the guy. And I would think that age you might be a little bit of a jerk, and that he's obviously grown out of, and now he's like,
right. Well, a buddy of mine, one of my best friends who I went to college with, was saying if the internet was when we were in college what it is now, and we ended up putting something out there that went viral, we would have been huge jerks.
oh my gosh, I've said that many times. I can't even imagine what.
Getting that much attention, that's just people lauding over you when you are too young, your brain's not fully developed, and you're not used to dealing with anything like that. Of course it's going to go to your head in the worst way possible. So I can see that.
Well, I'm sure you've seen that even with improv teams, like where they hit it real strong and they're just great, and then news around the theater is, God, they're kind of being jerks. Well, I mean, that happens to even the smallest scale.
Thankfully, I haven't seen that in the theater that I'm in, but at a festival, I have seen people who are from other towns who I guess they just felt like they were the hot thing because of the town they were from or their theater they were in. And then you see them perform and you're like, what are you so arrogant about? Like, you're not any better than anyone else here. Like, you're not bad, but you're not better than anybody else. I don't know what you're thinking.
Huge in Buffalo. Right. They're huge in Buffalo.
Now, where are you from originally?
I'm a mutt. I originally am from Kansas, but also Illinois, a little bit in Ohio, a little bit in the East Coast, a little bit, just sort of everywhere. Chicago, LA, so really everywhere.
Was that military?
Education. Yeah.
Education, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I claim many places.
Okay. And you're in Raleigh currently.
I am, right.
That's where I grew up as a little kid.
Oh.
So it's always got a soft spot in my heart. But you trained, I believe, in Chicago?
I did. I trained in Chicago, a little bit in Boston, but then I moved to Chicago, trained with Improv Olympic there, Second City, a little bit of Annoyance, and then I moved to Los Angeles, where we had an Improv Olympic West branch.
Right.
So when I went out there, I already had a theater that I was somewhat affiliated with, and so just kind of, got eventually into the mix there and got on a team, and then worked my way up to teaching. So
excellent. Okay, I want to go back a little bit and see Jeris, who started out in improv, where your growth came from. What seemed to inspire you the most?
Because I started in stand-up, and in my college years I did short form. I was kind of one of those, smart alecky fast people. And so in Second City, that's where I had started, and the first level one was sort of like encouraging of that. But I knew that everyone kept saying, go to IO, go to IO. And I took a class at IO, and it just all made sense to me. Like it changed everything. I didn't see the value in the going for the joke. I didn't see the value in the quick. And it just was like a lightning bolt. And then I realized at that time, by level 2, I was studying with Miles Stroth, and I realized I needed more of an acting emotional foundation because, when I grew up, it was best to suppress everything.
Right.
And as an actor,
it's very common now, yeah.
Like a good Midwestern kid. And I realized how important it was as an actor and an improviser, contrary to stand-up and stuff like that you had to have access to all your emotions. So I studied Meisner along with level 2, and that just completely changed my life. And Miles Stroth is very much, he's an instructor, but he's also a continuous student of improv. And so he really thinks things through, and he'll get up and work things. And it was such an education to watch his mind work, that I like studying things. I like puzzles and problems. And so I really connected with that. And I'd say IO was really instrumental in giving me a path of where I wanted to go in improv, because as you know, there's a type of improv for everyone.
Right. Yeah, that's the name of a book that I always tell people to read by Greg Tavares.
Yeah, it is. And so maybe this is not your style. Maybe that's not your style. Maybe you're creating your own thing. That's the beauty of Chicago, too, is there is a theater for you
Yeah,
depending on
there's
the
something for
style.
everyone.
Everyone, right. And that's a great advantage to spending some time there. So I was able to jump around to different theaters, and I found a couple, I didn't gel with, but really just kept going back to IO and spent the majority of my time there. Finished all the groups there. Was able to study with Dell, which is
That's amazing.
you can't even top that. And actually took him twice. I think I was like the second to last class before he passed.
Oh, wow.
So I was very fortunate to be there at the time that I was.
Yeah. And I heard he had mellowed by that point.
He had,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
A lot of
But,
people
I
might
mean-
say, like, oh, did he say anything crazy when he was critiquing you? But since he had mellowed by that point.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. But it was very, I don't know. I mean, it's like a religion almost, like
Yeah.
you're finally with the Pope. And I just remember panicking to make sure I was never late to class. Like, oh my gosh, like just that once you're in, it was like a tomb. You just waited for him to speak. But it was a great experience taking from him, learning from him. And he was very communicative about, why things work, why things didn't, and very direct, which could also, like, you just reached that age where you're like, look, I'm going to tell you how it is because that's how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that directness.
I appreciate directness too. I find it hard to do myself. I feel like there's all this like inner motivation that I have to go through in order to say the thing, and it ends up not being as direct, and also like I'm pushing something out, and that is harder, I think, on a subconscious level for a team member or a student to receive. But
Yes.
one of the things I really appreciated about your teaching style was that you were direct, and a lot of people, when they're sometimes direct, I'm one of them, will be a little apologetic about it, but there's nothing to apologize for. And you're the type of unapologetic direct coach that I feel like people need.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
How do you, is that just from having worked with people like Dell Close and taught from, learned under people like Dell Close and Miles Stroth? I get the impression he is similar in that
He's
regard.
very direct. Yes. I think so. I mean, there was a big span of time after I left Chicago and I went to LA, and I was getting on teams, and I had a few coaches that were direct, and I really liked their approach. But I think my style of coaching is I really want to solve what each individual's, I don't want to say the word problem, but like why they're stuck or what they're not seeing that they have the potential of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of look at everybody that way, and I just sort of allow myself to get into a space where I can just really watch and tune in, and it just sort of comes from that space. So I don't even think about it. I mean, I try to phrase it as constructively as possible, but I also really want to allow myself to say what comes in. I call it like the drop in, like where something just comes in your head and that's what you need to say. I'm hoping that what's coming out is something that only they understand. Like, it just hits a point in their brain that's like, that's what I've been struggling with. Like, I'm hoping that I create an atmosphere where we allow our minds to get to that place to where I can just sort of hone right into what that is and give them that information. And I've been pretty fortunate and lucky that it's been working. There's some days when I'm off, but I really I want to encourage like each individual to find what their voice is, because like we said, everybody's different,
Right.
and that's the beauty of it. And so I kind of set that as my goal, to make sure that by the time you begin and end class, you know what you are working on specifically, not just what you're working on improvisationally.
That's great. I like that frame of mind that you get in of, I want to help this person do the thing that they're trying to do. That's not how you worded it, but it bears just pointing it out again, that is such a good frame of mind to have if you're coaching or teaching, because then your notes are not about the scene or the choices. It's about helping the person. And I think a lot of people learn, like the bad coaches or teachers that are out there, they learn from the directness a bluntness that doesn't actually benefit anything. It's just them judging the student or the person that they're coaching. So, which is terrible. That doesn't judging them doesn't teach them anything other than that you didn't like it.
Right. I hear that a lot. Like I've had a lot of, and mainly adults, because they've been around at different theaters and stuff, that say that it's the feedback they get isn't hurtful or like you said, a judgment. Like where people second guess if they should even do improv after they leave a class, which is horrible. I mean, I don't see what the benefit is for a teacher to make someone feel that way. I don't see where that's constructive at all.
Exactly.
So that frustrates me. So and if I ever breathe something like that to a student, I would hope they would tell me immediately, because I would not want it to come out that way. But it's strange. I don't know.
Yeah, and the teams that I coach on the first day, I always tell them, if I'm here to help you and to challenge you, I'm not here to judge you. If I point out something, I'm not criticizing your choice or you as a person. If I ever say anything that makes you feel that I am judging you or criticizing you, I'm the one who's made the mistake, and I apologize, and I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again, because we are trying to just challenge people, and sometimes you do have to kick somebody in the butt maybe, but that's still for the benefit of them. It's not, let me just hear myself talk.
Right. I mean, it does call for tough love every once in a while. I'm a tough love person. Right. But you also have to, I think as an instructor, it's important to know a little bit about your students, or hopefully they will share enough about them that that sometimes, and this, people bring stuff in. Yeah. So you may say something that's something you need to tell them, but they're taking it from, through the filter that they brought in with them. Exactly. And so there's some duty on their side too, to come to class and make sure they take that filter off, because otherwise you can't. Nothing will get accomplished.
Right, and that's something another aspect that I wanted to talk to you about in regards to coaching and teaching. When you are giving a note, and it isn't a positive note, and the person apologizes, you give them the note, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they feel bad about what they've done, and it's like they owe you something. And those situations are really tough for me when I'm talking to anyone and I'm just sort of pointing out something and that's their response. Is there some way other than saying, hey, you need to take that filter off, which is obviously a responsible aspect of it, or important or responsibility of theirs, but what can I do differently to help that person in that kind of situation and to get past that?
I think if someone apologizes, I tend to say, well, don't apologize. Hey, now we know. I mean, now you know that you didn't know. Now you know. So now you just go forward with that. There's no need to apologize. This is all about learning. I had a student that felt that he went out like in every scene, and he kind of did. But he was so enthusiastic, so wanted to get the energy moving, that he just kept doing it. And he took it very hard. And I said, look, your enthusiasm, you went out because you knew that show needed energy. Right. So don't apologize for that. Sure, now you need to temper, and you need to be aware of that and find other ways to get the energy going, but don't apologize for the core reason why you did what you did. Do you know what I'm saying? If you
absolutely.
Instruct the why, they may not take it so hard on themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, and I was taking a class once, and the teacher made a note about something I was doing. It's like, she said, oh, don't do that. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And she stopped and she said, don't apologize. Like, don't be sorry, because if you were perfect at doing this, you wouldn't be taking a class.
Exactly.
So it's like, give yourself some freedom here to make some mistakes. And I think that was a good note. In regards to what you just said about the bringing the energy to the stage, that's that's a pretty eye-opening thing. It's something that I noticed, but that phrasing was not in my head, and it was like I just found the key to a locked door, where I wanted to get in that door, and I knew it was in there. I love that, because that is the sort of thing that's missing when people hesitate on the sidelines to go in. Like, we're going in the second beats, but I can't remember, or or I'm too scared to go out and initiate my scene idea.
Right.
It is like there's this lull in the energy.
Yes.
And it's going out there is just keeping that energy going. You're just filling this gap where energy is supposed to be by bringing energy to it. Mm-hmm. And just holding on to that energy.
Like,
oh, that's great.
It's like keeping that balloon in the air. You have to keep the balloon in there. But I find it's less of a challenge with teens, than it is adults, because we're so damn polite.
Right.
And
especially here, it seems like in the South.
Yeah. Bless their heart. I don't want to go out and step on their line. But so I tell them I want it to be uncomfortable on the wall, so that getting out would be more comfortable. Like physically, I put their energy in their toes and make them lean a little bit forward. You can't put your butt on the wall, can't put your hands on the wall, can't cross your arms, can't put your hands in your pockets. You need to be standing there ready to be of service. And so the only thing you're doing is watching that scene like, this is my scene too.
Right.
Not, that's their scene. Now, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because you may be doing something in that scene that leads to something you're not even aware of later on. So if I look at that scene and it's, two guys in a donut shop, do I need someone over in the corner just drinking coffee? Do they need me to help this be real? Do they need an edit? Do they need a walk-on? Do they need me to be an inanimate object? Like, if you look at the scene like it's your scene, your energy is towards that focal point. And if your body is physically leaning into that focal point, then you just by energy itself interacting with each other, you have to keep it going. But I think a lot of adults tend to look at a show through their ego and sometimes self-judgment.
Right.
And keeps them from going out, and that drives me insane. Like that's my biggest criticism of most adult teams is they're not fast enough, they're not free enough, they're not physical enough. And all of that has to do with how comfortable we are just hanging out and being funny.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. And that's a discussion I've had with other people about that asking for, kind of asking for approval to like initiate a scene. And it's kind of like, well, you're doing improv. Everyone expects you to do this.
Right.
It's okay. You don't have to ask for our approval of it.
Yeah.
You could just go out there and do it. And it is a frustrating thing, because sometimes that's the sort of stuff that's holding people back, and it's when that's what's holding someone back, it's hard to get to the really meaty stuff.
Right. You can't do the more artistry of improv if you can't get past yourself.
Right.
And the artistry of improv really is reliant upon a group mind and just completely, as the existentials, as we call it, jumping into the abyss.
Right.
And what I think it's just youth and, just kind of, we always say as adults, we want to get to our sense of play. And most of my teen groups, well, they're already there.
Right.
They're playing all the time. And it's such a contrast, because they're just like going, and it all makes sense, and they're all like, they're firing all pistons, and then the next show can be an adult show, and it's all of a sudden everything goes down a level, because they're not at that sense of play naturally. So whatever adults have to do before they even meet with their group to get to that playful space, they owe it to their group to do that. And the audience. I mean, we can't forget that we are there charging an audience money to entertain them. And so there's just no room for hesitancy and second guessing if you asked someone to come see you.
To plop down $10.
Yeah. And it's a lot of money. And
to spend their time with you. I mean, especially in this day and age where there's so many options on television on the internet, just out in the world in their town. They could do some meetup group. They could have been doing so many things that you could not do 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And we're asking them to spend that time with us. So you're not only honoring the fact that they paid money, but you're honoring the fact that they are spending their time with you.
Right. And they need to create an atmosphere of the audience feeling like, oh, thank God I didn't miss this.
Right.
But I feel uncomfortable for that person. They don't look comfortable on stage, or they look like they're not sure. You just don't want to do that. So whatever conversations you can have with yourself before you get there. I mean, you have to be present with that concept that, no, I'm an entertainer, like it or not. If you're in an improv troupe, you're an entertainer. That's the tough love side of me. Well, then don't do it.
Yeah.
If you can't accept the responsibility of an entertainer and being someone who is to help people escape their daily lives by completely giving into a character or a moment or a scene, then do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. When you were starting out, and you were seeing a lot of the greats of Chicago and performing with people and performing on great teams yourself, and then went out to LA and was the same story. Were there the people that we all know and love now that when you saw them earlier on that were having some of these difficulties that we talk about now?
Oh boy, I can't think here because when I was studying, I got to see Rachel Dretch and Tina Fey and on the main stage of Second City. So you got to see them right in their prime, and that was magical. And at I.O., I was able to see people like Stephanie Weir, who's a genius. And not only in an improv show, but also got to see her perform with Jimmy Carrane, a Meisner-style improv that lasted like an hour, just the two of them.
Wow.
And so, people that were just at the height of their playfulness because the stakes weren't as intense as if they were living in LA. And so it was just really pure. TJ Jagodowski, I got, he was on a team and I was an intern and I got to see him all the time.
So you got to see them when they were already past some of these issues?
Well, TJ was actually on a team, and like the earliest stages of Baby Wants Candy, which is the musical improv troupe that's still together. So a lot of them were in their early stages of forming and gelling, all skilled in their own right. But I would assume that from even like the TJ I saw then compared to the master that he is now.
Oh my gosh.
So that would be maybe an example of someone that absolutely has become like king. And I got to, see him when he was on probably second team at the time. Obviously one of the strong teams, but still.
I just, wonder for those people, and I think all of us have things that we want to overcome or get.
I guess, actually I could answer your question now. I realize that because, Miles, and he's talked about this on a podcast and openly too, that he was struggling with certain aspects of the form and mainly the letting go, the not working so hard because, as I said, he's methodical. He thinks, looks at structures and what have you. And he was struggling with the letting go side of it, overthinking it, and was very vocal about that. And that was part of the reason he got up in class and would stop for a second and analyze again something that happened and talk to us about it. So, he was really working through something himself. And he credits playing with Heather Ann Campbell as being his epiphany of, this is what can happen in improv. And the two of them were a duo out in LA and did cage matches and ones, and they still perform together. But he does credit her, and she's an incredibly playful character. She was on my group, Powerbox, and she's, of course, now she's on Who's Line and all that, so you know her. But she's so playful and so smart and so resourceful and just creative, and she's just a wonderful energy. And so I thought to myself, like, even seeing their first, pairing, I was like, really? But then when I heard him describe all that, I was like, that's fantastic. And so that would be an example of someone that has changed his style of play based, from obviously diligent adherence to studying and figuring it out, and then finally reaching that moment, years later.
Right. Well, that's good to...
Continuing process. I mean, we're all in the process. I mean...
Right. We're always getting better at something.
Yeah.
But those things where, I wonder... I sometimes worry when I see players who seem to struggle just with accepting the energy and taking the energy and passing the energy. Right. And it's like, well, that's the basics. So I'm a little worried about your future in this if you're struggling with the basic part of this. And,
I try, the simplest thing, zip, zap, zop, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone does it ad infinitum, but you can tell so much about a player and how they're going to play by how they play that game.
I 100% agree. The people who try to throw zip to somebody else on the sneaky sneak, those people tend to be harder to do improv with.
That's
because they're doing their own thing,
right?
And other people that can't connect with them.
And the people that don't kind of half-ass clap, half-ass pass it, that they're not fully letting go. They're not really allowing themselves yet. And that's why I think I'm probably the most militant when that game's being played.
I love that because you did that in the workshop that I took. And I commented afterwards, you asked, how did that feel now that we've done it? And you were doing eliminations. Like, if someone said, zip, zap, zap, then you're like, all right, third person.
Get out of here.
It was supposed to be zop. You're out. And they would be like, huh, what? And you're like, out. You were very direct and you were militant about it. But it made us so on the ready. And I remember commenting afterwards that was the hardest I'd ever done it. And I was the most out of breath out of doing any warm-up.
Yay!
I've ever been, it was not that I was out of shape or anything. I just mean it was something that made you get in it so much so you didn't mess up.
Yeah.
And now it's
engine. Yeah, good. I hope now it's just fun because it gets the engine going. Like I always ask people, where's your energy after we play it that way? They're like, oh, it's in my chest. I'm like, yeah, that's your engine. Like you've got to start your damn engine. Like, of course,
that's another good thing you're saying that, oh gosh, I'm going to have to listen to this episode a couple of times just to take notes. And so right. Well, it's just, it's a really great way to put it because, some people think, oh, we're just doing warm-ups. They're just kind of shrugging about it. Or they'll say something that's kind of intellectual about warm-ups. About, oh, well, we're passing the energy and we're connecting and it's a good way to just start, it's like an icebreaker. But it's more than that. You're starting your engine. Right. And that is, that's where the sparks happen, that's where something intense is happening when you start an engine. And it does need to be.
That's something you could do really physically. I mean, when it matters, there's something that starts that you can't do with a jumping jack.
Right.
It's an internal fire that's created. And I think with adults especially, you've got to find warm-ups that attack that address that. Because I'm telling you, some adult warm-ups are like, well, let's just all sit around and talk about our day. Why? You do that all damn day. That has no. That's the worst you could do. Just, talk about your day maybe in a scream. Maybe with every emotion at a level 10, maybe saying all the words you wish you would have said.
Right. Okay,
now let's talk about your day, but don't do a little arm flaps and just exchange niceties. No.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of going through the motions with a lot of warm-ups, and that's not really what it's supposed to be. I maybe wrongly made a reference to basketball teams doing layup drills before a basketball game. And I was like, that's essentially what we're doing with these warm-ups, is the same thing that these basketball teams are doing. They're getting the blood flowing.
Right.
And they're kicking in that muscle memory of the skills that they're going to need to play the game. And we're kicking in muscle memories for the skills that we need to do improv. That's why we're doing this. But I think it's easy to look at it's not like basketball players are hustling when they're doing, they're not like putting their all into those layup drills before a game. They're just kind of going through it. So I think that's what ends up. I think it's an easy thing to take from my comment, even though I still think it's correct, but maybe I need to explain it with that start your engines sort of approach as well.
Yeah. Because I would say, like, I went to a UNC game a couple of weeks ago, and I agree that, they're going through the motions, but what is also happening is their engine is starting, because you cannot help but be affected by the crowd, the dynamics,
right,
the intimidation factor of all the, I call it Fox Sports on acid. So, it is happening, but with like an improv troupe, I get the idea of the casual warm up, but what's creating that for them?
Right.
They're in a green room by themselves. They don't know what the audience is going to look like. And I've had troops say to me, well, we would have had a better show, but there were only 6 people in the audience. And I'm like, that's complete and utter crap, because those 6 people should have the best show of their lives. It has nothing to do with them.
Right.
You need to still do what you need to do to bring it full on. I mean,
right. If you come out ready, then it doesn't matter who's in the audience. If you're properly prepared and you're not trying to get the energy from the audience to get you started, but you have already got the energy because you got yourself started, then there could be one person in the audience and you can still give it your all.
Give them the best experience ever. If anything, that should drive you further, because you want to make that one person so glad they sat there by themselves.
Oh, right.
And then that word will spread. But yeah, it's a difficult thing.
Do you think that being able to perform in front of, fully engaged, fully believing in your world with all the energy, even though there's 6 people in the audience, do you think that helps in filming maybe a TV show or a movie that doesn't have a live audience? Because you've done some work like that, and those are weird experiences, because they talk about how there's all this hurry up and wait, and then they're hurrying you to get to the set, and then you're just standing on the set in a dark room, and then the camera's on, and you just have to be fully this other character, fully believe in your world, and 2 seconds ago you're just like lounging, just waiting for them to get started.
Absolutely. And I would say it's harder too, and it is good training for that, because like for one show I was on, it was called Oh Grow Up, and it didn't last very long. And I came in and they let the audience do their thing, like just react as they wanted to. And after, I got the laugh or whatever and all that, but then they stopped everything and said, look, audience, we don't want any of this, any of that, just observe. And so that was kind of jarring, because then your whole thing was did not get the response that it wanted to organically. You were stripped of that. And so you really did have to just think, okay, well, I'm going to do this same thing with absolutely no indicators if I'm hitting everything right. And it is, it's good training, because you never know. Especially if you're an actor and you're auditioning with the tape, there's no one there. There's no one there to laugh. The reader's not going to laugh. You just have to be able to bring it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
An actor that has, like when I was on Spin City, I was sitting with Barry Boswick and everybody in like the governor's office scene, and I had one line to say, and it had to get the laugh. And so you'd wait and wait and wait, and they'd say something, and then I had to deliver that, and then someone would say something, and then a few things would happen, and then it's over. And we did it once, and they're like, okay, and then you take forever to reset everything.
Oh, gosh.
And Barry Boswick said to me, he said, you have the hardest job, because you have to say that right every time in order to get this laugh. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And it's true. I mean, so it's like you're in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And so what I'm always telling my improvisers, don't improvise in a vacuum. You're not in a vacuum. You are
a person. Yeah.
You're a person. You're affecting people. You're part of the group. And yeah, whether there's 6 people in the audience or not.
Exactly. I am teaching a 101 class.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's my second time teaching a 101 class, but first time doing it solo. And it is a great group. And I'm wondering if, because you have a good bit of experience getting people started in the world of improv, is there any advice you have for teachers to give to their students, or just for me, myself, the teachers?
On a level 1, well, I think the number one thing I address, and this is adults, correct? It's an adults class.
Yes.
Because I'm about to teach a class that's, even though it's an advanced class, I have about 3 people that are actors that have not taken improv. Okay. So my thing I like to address first is don't be scared. I think everyone that comes to a 101 is something about them brought them there. And there's another side of them that's telling them, don't get in the car. And I'm not going to be funny, and I won't know what I'm doing, and all that. And I think that first day, I like to just knock that other person out of there and just really try to find the person inside that said, I want to do this, and really speak to them and find games, getting acquaintance things that gets them completely out of their head, doing things that they never thought they'd do before. So that other person, that judgy side of themselves, really has no room for a voice eventually, because they're so caught up in everything else. And I like to surprise them, have them surprise themselves, so that by the end, they're doing at least 3-line or 5-line scenes. And so I might heavy-handedly give them a point of view, an emotion, and let that help them get into it. And then always afterwards, how'd that feel? How did that feel? What do you think? Getting them talking. And a lot of them tend to talk through that fear out loud if you give them that opportunity. And then I just take feverish notes on who said what their Achilles heels are, and what to be aware of, and sort of see, like, okay, now how does each of these people think, work, judge themselves, or whatever, and just kind of make a little map for each of them on the journey through that whole class.
That's really good info and advice, because a lot of the players, or a lot of the students that I have, they're not people. Most of them are people who did not perform in some other capacity somewhere else.
Great.
They're like 2 people maybe who've done something. Yeah. Most of them are people who just have day jobs, and they want to get better at engaging with people and speaking in front of an audience.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So the big hump is to just get over that fear, and that part of them that's saying, oh, whatever negative thought, that negative self-talk, they got to just knock it out.
They have to. I had a group, professional group, that they wanted to do a bonding workshop to help them, because they're the marketing creative team for a particular company for an app. And so we ended up, the most successful game they played was the rant, because everyone loves to, complain or go off on something. And if you hit the right topics, and if someone's talking, you just are yelling, go, now, get them out. Like, if you're encouraging them to throw themselves up there to help the other person get done, you find that they all start really being more themselves and saying things that are just naturally funny. And then they get these big laughs, and they're kind of surprised. And at the end, well, of course, they also shared probably too much about work drama, but but at the end, a lot of the feedback was, I had no idea how funny these people I work with are. And and it's because, well, there's no space for that really at work to really let go and see how funny, how your funny is. Like, how does your funny work? Are you dry? Are you snarky? Are you silly? Are you whatever? And I like that for that, because you get to know their personality too.
Excellent. That's good. Well, I say we've reached the end, but I definitely feel like we could talk for another couple of hours. So I'll have to have you on again sometime to talk. I said this to Brian James O'Connell too, so it'd be great to have you on again. But now is the time for us to try to create something together. But given the discussion we've had, I'm not exactly sure what that should be. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I could talk to you about what I've been carrying in my head for this particular class, and you and I can maybe feedback it, and I can get your thoughts, and we can sort of co-create that. I'm teaching a class starting next week on character work.
Okay.
Because I find adults tend to only play themselves on stage, or variations of themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to think of a way to make them more cognizant of who they play consistently on stage. Because they don't really think of it that way, you know?
Right.
So I had thought about putting down, like, tell me your 4 energies you think you do on stage. Like, analyze them, write them down. Age, gender, speech pattern, whatever. And have them, like, write them down. And then from then I'm deciding whether do they trade them with someone and have that other person so they can watch themselves, or do we try to find ways to then take those standard stock characters and push them into a different situation, or change and alter something about them, like the baby steps.
Right.
I just want you to be able to truly recognize and own their go-tos.
Yeah. So let's see. I think the tough thing for me to figure out is how they could really see themselves. But I guess if you have them write it down, they give it to someone else, and at least someone else is there to say, "Hey, you are doing that thing." But I mean, I know there's that one exercise where people walk around as themselves. They just walk around the whole room, and the instructor will just say, "Recognize how you walk, where your arms are, how you hold yourself. That's how you walk." Right. So then they start throwing on different characteristics, so they can say, like, you're aware of how you walk, so change that so you can be a different kind of person. But if there's a way to do that with voice, but then getting deeper, the way somebody thinks too. Yeah,
where they think too. Yeah, because I've done a lot of the body work, and that's an approach, like, later on where we, you work from a body part. Like, but for right now, for argument's sake, who would you say are the top 2 characters you come out on the stage doing?
Myself and a country guy.
And why? So why would you lean towards yourself?
I think sometimes I'm intentionally, to a fault, being neutral so that I don't step on anything. Okay. And because I'm not sure, because the team that I perform with most of the time is an Armando, and so I'm giving them the opportunity to present what they want, and I don't want to do something that's too far away from maybe what they need. But we're also not, our school of thought doesn't really come from the framing each other or giving each other big playable gifts.
Gotcha.
So we end up not having them.
Ooh.
Unless we come up with it ourselves. But then someone can miss that that's what you're doing. But too often that just becomes something that feels, for me personally, the way I do it, it feels too much like I'm going for the joke. And so then I just end up reverting back to just neutral Jason. Right. And then when I do, like, the country guy, that just seems like a hack move for me, because now it's like, oh, I don't want to just be myself, well, here's the other thing. Yeah, that's not even the voice that I do, but I just mean it just ends up being this kind of guy that I feel is not like me, but it's not
Right.
the type of work I want to do. I want to be a completely different person.
Right.
As well.
But see, that's awesome because that's exactly what I would like to hear from the people I'm going to ask that question to. So then I guess my question back would be, given that unlike in television, theater, whatever, on an improv stage, you can be absolutely anything you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself why you consistently be yourself or that other character. Like, what would be one word to describe why you make that choice?
I think the easy answer is fear, but that's not the truthful answer. I don't know how to say it in one word. I would say like a lack of knowledge.
In what area?
Well, just the fact of I don't know the skill in order to really very quickly get me into the body of another person.
Gotcha.
Because I want to be I want to do character work that's real, that's like old school. Like you see something, there's a guy in Ghostbusters who's just standing by the elevator and he has like one line. And that guy, that character seems so rich just because of the way the guy is. And I want to be like that in a scene where if I have one line, even in that one line that I have, it looks like I'm a full person.
Right.
But I don't know the skill to do that in improv quickly in this sort of faster paced improv scenes.
Right. Because I always tell, I'm starting to really push too, that people that do walk-ons, could you have done that walk-on as the full character? Like, oh, I'm at the store and the cashier told me, and someone comes out and says exactly what the cashier said, right? Mm-hmm. I said, why couldn't you have come out and been like a 90-year-old cashier who's got a toothpick? You're still facilitating what needs to happen, but you brought another color to it that not only can the show use later on, but it made you entertain yourself too, like it challenged you too.
Right.
So I'd give you that first assignment would be, if you're not comfortable having a fully fleshed out character in a scene and sustaining that character, start with small characters in small moments. Or I'm sorry, I should say big character in small moments. So if you have to go out and serve either a walk-on or a tag-out or whatever, come out as something that would be who you would see in that moment, or who unexpectedly, like, oh, I talked to my principal the other day, and then come out as the principal and you're like using a hacky sack. Like,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, find small ways to start getting into that world. And then I always tell people every day, observe people like it's your job.
Yeah, so I started doing that way before I started doing improv. But now it's just like a fun pastime. Like I'm not doing what I need to do to learn.
So tough love, do it. But I always have people keep like a little booklet, you keep it with you. And when you notice people, and you listen to conversations, you write them down, and then you bring them out in a scene. If you know you've got cowboy guy, how easy would it be to just work in another one?
Right.
That's my challenge to you. It's so much more fun to play with characters.
It is.
It's so rewarding and fun.
It really is.
And it's such an easy way to bring energy to your whole show.
I had my team do an exercise that got them to discover a character and just be something different than themselves. Just be a character. And I told them, once you have that, you can just be that character the whole scene. You have all you need. You have a frame of mind. You have body language that you're putting out. It can be really easy when you're doing an exercise to do what the exercise calls for, like in this case, doing character work. But it's really easy that once you get into doing scene work, that you drop all that stuff. You're not holding on to the character anymore.
Right.
So it's a way around that just to remind them like, hey guys, just keep doing that. Don't drop it.
It is, because I would say sustaining a character is the toughest thing if you're new to it.
Yeah.
And because I think I find that people will say to me, well, I just, I got lost, or I like, it comes from judging themselves. Like, I didn't think it was funny, if I'm coaching, I just say, where's your character? I'll just throw it out as the scene's going on. Don't lose character. Don't lose character. To make them keep it up, like the balloon, keep that balloon in the air, keep the character going. Or I'll call them out. You lost your character in that scene. And like, oh, okay, like you can't lose character. So just constantly calling it out to where they're able to start catching themselves when they give up. It doesn't hurt. Just stop. If it's in a rehearsal, it doesn't hurt to just coach during a scene. I'm all about that.
Okay.
And sometimes giving them a chance to do the same scene again with that character. And, because it's like you said, muscle memory.
Yeah.
It's so hard for people to give themselves permission to do characters, but once they do, and I see their faces, they're just like, my God, because there's something so freeing about a character, and as an audience member, it's an experience for them. They don't look at you anymore. They look at what you're doing, and then they find, oh my gosh, that's so like that type of person. And of course they had that catchphrase, and of course they said, and they relate it to their lives, and it's such a communal like experience. But the actor gets to sort of let go and say things you never would say in your life because it's not you. And my actors will say time and again, I don't even know where that came from. I said, yeah, because it's your character. It came from your character.
Right.
That's so much easier to improvise behind the mask of a character than just as yourself.
Right. Right.
My character made me do it. That's my push. You have to come take my character class. That's what you got to do. Drive whatever 17 hours, however far it is. Come take my class on Sundays.
Well, I would love to. I wish I could, but
yeah. Are you doing NC Comedy Arts again?
Yes, we will be there.
Oh, good. I can't teach because I've got 3 teams performing, and they're all Utes. So
hopefully we'll get to catch up, though.
Yeah, I'd love to see you there. Yeah, you have to see the groups. Definitely. What day are you coming?
We are coming up on a Thursday, and we have a show. I think that Thursday I'm in a show.
Okay.
And I'm there the whole weekend.
Okay. Well, the 23rd, my teen dynamo troupe, the Existentials, plays at the Art Center main stage.
Oh, okay. I guess that's a couple days before I'll be up there.
The 23rd. Yeah. You'll be there for the...
Yeah.
The 25th is the workshops. My other 2 groups perform the 25th at the side stage. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, there it is. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Jeris.
Thanks for asking. It was great talking with you.
It was great talking with you too. There was so much great information in there.
Oh, good. Hopefully it's that mid-afternoon mom brain. I don't know.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed it. That was such a fun chat for me. And one of the things, I have to say it again, inspiration. That's the word of the day. And it always is when it comes to Jeris Donovan, because she just ignites inspiration in me. When I took her workshop, I was inspired to be a better improviser. And from seeing how she teaches, she's strict and she challenges you, but she doesn't take the fun out of doing improv. So she not only inspired me as a player, but also as a coach and an instructor, and I hope to be as great as she is one day. Well, as I mentioned, she is an instructor, and she works at the Moonlight Stage Company, and we fit in a little plug there for the North Carolina Comedy Arts Festival. That's coming up later this month. You can go to nccomedyarts.com to find out information about shows. Jeris has, as she mentioned, 3 different troupes that are going to be performing: Spitfire, Improvables, and Existentials. Those are the 3 teams that she's going to have there, so come check those out. And check me out. Me and my good friend Andrew Van are going to be performing Means to an End on February 23rd. So again, nccomedyarts.com to find out all the info. Well, if you want to know more about this podcast, you can go to thereitispod.com. You can, of course, subscribe to us on both SoundCloud and iTunes. Please leave reviews. And you can also follow us on social media at thereitispod on both Twitter and Facebook. And on Twitter, you can find me at Jason Farr Jokes. Well, this has been a fun episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more fun ones coming up. And until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.